Hi, welcome to Cakes and Aprons. My name is Jeannie, and today we are going back to the Victorian era. I will be wearing a pinafore apron that was common at the time. They were mostly long. However, there were some shorter aprons also that were used for formal settings. I'm actually just going to put a smaller apron on top because I tend to be a bit of a messy baker. And today we will be making a traditional Victoria sponge cake, which is made of 2 layers of vanilla sponge cake filled with strawberry jam, and we will be adding whipped cream as well. It's a light cake that's perfect for afternoon tea or a fairy tea party, which is what I'm getting ready for. And I'm putting on these sugar flowers, so I'll show you how easy that is to do. This is one of the most celebrated tea cakes because it has been around a long time. The 7th Duchess of Bedford, Anna Maria Russell, is who we have to thank for the invention of the afternoon teas sometime around 1840. Due to increasing urbanization and the rise of industrialization, the evening meal was becoming later and later. This was due to the invention of gas lighting. Here's a fun fact. There are still 1,500 gas lamps operating in London. Lamp attendants are employed to maintain them, riding between them on motorbikes and using ladders hidden in strategic places to climb the lamp posts. When the moon is shining yellow. However, rural farming communities in Victorian England did not have access to gas lighting and other conveniences. They had an early start and finished when the sun went down. The wealthier classes, unhindered by such practicalities, were now having dinner closer to 9 p.m., with lunch many hours earlier at midday or so. The Duchess of Bedford, who was one of the Queen Victoria's ladies-in-waiting, was having none of it. Describing a sinking feeling at about 4 or 5 p.m., she became despondent at the void between lunch and dinner. She requested that some tea, bread and butter, and cake would be brought to her room in the late afternoon. And with that one request of a lady's grumbling stomach, an afternoon ritual was born. Needing very little prompting to find an occasion to squeeze in another cup of tea and a piece of cake, the upper classes ate it up, and the fashionable custom soon spread across Britain. Queen Victoria is said to have had a sweet tooth and was instrumental in making this afternoon tea and cake a time of ritual. All the lads and little miss. I like to think of the Victorian tea and cake being an early act of feminism, because this was primarily a feminine affair. Afternoon tea allowed women to gain freedom from their stifling bone corsets. A new style was born for these gatherings that used less boning to hold their shape and were made of light, flowing fabrics. Free from some of the Victorian era's performative and stifling fashion, afternoon tea was a place where women took center stage and were able to exchange ideas, opinions, and a healthy dose of gossip. Also during this era, test kitchens and inventions revolutionized baking as we know it today. Baking powder was invented at this time. The flour and sugar sifter, which we will use in this recipe today, also came from this era. So let's begin making the Victorian tea sponge cake. For this recipe, you will need 2 9-inch cake pans that are buttered and floured. You also need 2 cups of flour. I'm using a gluten-free flour blend, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of fine sea salt, 1 cup of unsalted butter, softened, 1 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 4 large eggs at room temperature, 1 1/2 teaspoons pure vanilla extract, and a 1/4 cup of milk at room temperature, and you can always opt for oat milk. Begin by putting all the dry ingredients together and sifting. Next, add the butter and sugar to a bowl of a stand mixer and beat the butter and sugar together till light and fluffy. Next, you add the eggs, one at a time, beating well after each egg. So you may scrape down the bowl as needed and make sure there isn't any butter stuck to the bottom. Then add your vanilla extract and milk and mix until completely incorporated. Finally, you add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients and beat until combined. This is when you transfer your batter into your prepared cake pans, dividing your batter evenly, and bake for 22 to 26 minutes or until your cake tester, either a toothpick or thin knife, comes out clean. Be careful not to overbake and dry out the cakes. Next, cool your cakes in the pans for 20 minutes and remove from the pans and cool completely on a wire rack. While your cakes are cooling, you can sugar some flowers like I did. I think they make a beautiful decoration for the top of your tea cake. What you do is you add 1 egg white and a teaspoon of water and you mix it together. Then you paint your flowers. You can use rose petals, snapdragons, or so many different edible kind of flowers. When you are done doing your egg white and water mixture and painting it on, you gently sprinkle some sugar. I was a little heavy-handed with the sugar, but honestly, I think it worked out great. Hello. You can sugar me. I love snapdragons since they talk. So yes, these are so fun to make, and they're supposed to dry for a little while. So you leave those out drying, and while your cake is cool, you take a 3/4 cup strawberry jam and you just put that on top. I just took mine right out of the jar and sort of eyed it how much I wanted. I left it about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch from the edge. That way when I put my cake on top of the bottom cake, it wouldn't spill over. Next, after you do the thin layer, you add your whipped cream. And then you gently put your cake on top. Finally, you sift some powdered sugar over the top, add your flowers, and you're done. Behind the clouds, can't you see the couples on the spoon? And now we get to try the Victorian sponge cake. I'm very excited, not only to try this cake, but to also try the edible flowers. I have never made or eaten sugared flowers before. And this cake is surprisingly cutting really easily. I was thinking the whipped cream might go everywhere, but it doesn't. Look how beautiful this is. And you can really see why they called it sometimes a Victorian sandwich, because, well, with 2 simple cakes and a little jelly sandwich in between, you could even just eat it for lunch. All right, so let us try. I'll try one of these flowers first. Snapdragons aren't so bad. It's good they have some sugar on them though. Oh, and the cake is so fluffy. That's a delicious cake to go with tea. As an American though, I'm having coffee, which also goes very well. All right. Well, I hope you are enjoying the spring, and I will see you next time on Cakes and Aprons. Bye-bye.